So this video is going to walk through the staff section of My Bridal. So to get to this, you can go to our menu and you can go to staff, and you'll see that that's then divided into employees and the work schedule. If you go to the employees, it'll give you a list of all of your current employees. You also can archive employees, so that means that if somebody then leaves, you can archive them, which will still leave any previous appointments and sales that they've done, but it removes them from the drop-down option when you're adding new appointments and sales, so they no longer appear as available. If you want to add a new employee, you would just come up here to the option to add a new employee. It'll bring you to this section. You can fill in all of their contact information in here. You can choose a colour for them, which then will appear against their appointments in the diary, so you can, at a quick view, see which appointments belong to which employee. You can allocate which store they work at if you have more than one store in your business, and you can also choose what appointment types they're allowed to see. So for example, if you're adding like a seamstress, that will only see fittings, or if you're adding a Saturday girl, that's only ever going to be able to see first appointments on a Saturday. You can then allocate them to the correct appointment types. Once you've done all that information, you can submit them, and that will then create a new employee for you. Once you've added in your employees and they're listed like this, you can go onto each one and you can look at some more information. So it will pull across their name, their colour code, any information on here. And you also have the ability to start a clock in and clock out here as well. So if that is something that you do for your business, if your staff do clock in, clock out, whenever they come to work a shift, they would come to staff, employees, come to themselves, and then they can clock in, which would then start that clock running. That can be overridden, so if you are the business owner, if somebody clocks in and forgets to clock out, you could then go in and amend that so they actually are showing the correct hours, but if somebody wants to do it, this is where you would come. The info tab will show the contact information on there, and that just shows a summary of all that information that we originally added in when you added them. And you can also archive them from here as well, as I mentioned, so if you need to archive a staff member because they've left, this is where you'd come to do that, so you just change that to archived, yes. We then have added in this option for the work schedule. So as I've already said, you can clock in, clock out with your staff, but you also have the ability to build a work schedule. And what this does is it generates a rota essentially. So the work schedule allows you to add in periods of time that staff are working or periods of time that they're off. And that then pulls through to this work schedule here, which I will show you in a moment. So you can see for this employee, I've got several different work patterns in place. So I've got like Monday that they're working for this period just for one day. I've got another day here, and it's listed down here. So these can also repeat as well. So most people, when you're adding in the work schedule, you would be adding in a weekly pattern of what days of the week that they work. Although that can vary, you can have it so that they're every week or every couple of weeks. To add in a new work schedule for each employee, so if you wanted to say that somebody worked Monday through Friday, you would come here, you choose the type, which would be work. You also could add in time off if, for example, they wanted a week off on holiday or something like that. You would then do set time or all day. So if we're saying that this person is going to work, let's do next week. So the week commencing the 14th, start time, end time, 9 till 5, that's fine. And here you can choose to repeat that for every day for the rest of that week as well. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to repeat that every 1 week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. We're going to do that. And you can say repeat from that date, repeat until never. So that means that the repeat will never end. So that means that that's just the shift that they work every week forever. But as you can see, the settings in here allow you to play around with this, and it can be quite flexible. So it might be that your business runs on a 2-weekly schedule. So it could be that every 1 week they work this pattern, but every next week they work the other. So you could repeat every 2 weeks this pattern, and then you could add in another schedule that would be that second week in between, if that makes sense. So you can make this fit however it works for you. I'm going to say this is the pattern for every 1 week, and it's going to repeat forever. Add work schedule. That will then pull through onto the actual work schedule itself, which I'll show you in a second. And the other thing that you have in the staff profile as well that we haven't been through is the activity. So on here, each employee has this section, and this will basically divide up any kind of information within the system that's related to them directly. So you can see it's pulled through to the customers. So these are the customers that have been assigned to this employee. So it allows you to organise your customers and your appointments and tasks and things a little bit easier. You can also go in and look at the appointments, any appointments that have been allocated to that staff member, any of the customer appointments that have been allocated as well. So the appointments is any appointments in the diary that are booked in with that employee. The customer appointments are any appointments that belong to this employee's customers. So the actual appointment might not be with the employee, so it could be like with a seamstress, but if you look after that customer as a whole, you can still see all of your customers' upcoming appointments, any sales that that employee has added, and any tasks that are allocated to that employee as well will all be listed down here. I think that covers everything within the employee section of here, which then brings us through to the work schedule. So the work schedule itself, this uses information that's generated from the employees to populate this work schedule. So you can see that it looks really nice, it's really clear, and you can come in and you can see exactly who's working, what days and what hours. So for this week with all of my staff, you can see I've got Kelly on holiday all day this week from Monday through Friday. You can see the hours that my other staff members are working. This can then be used for timesheets. You can export this by coming up here. You can go to export CSV, which will then export this data and you can then use it to do your payslip. You can also choose whether it's the week or the month view. So you can go to the month view, which will then show any scheduled hours that have been either gone past or any that are due and scheduled in the work schedule for the rest of the month or the week. I'm going to leave it on the week view just because it's really nice and clear. You also as well on here, so all of these shifts on here have been ones that have been scheduled in the work schedule and the ones that are due to happen. You can actually as well clock in, clock out. So you don't have to use the schedule. You can just leave this blank and you could just come to the work schedule and you can click on a shift and you can clock in, clock out as well. So you can also do this even if the shift has been scheduled. So like for example, this is today. Daisy Brown, she's scheduled to work 9 till 5, but maybe she hasn't actually worked 9 till 5. Maybe if you clock in, you can see the time is then different. So you can do both. You could schedule them to be in 9 till 5, but you could get your staff to actually just clock in the hours that they do genuinely work. So it's up to you how that works. Or you just leave the schedule and then once the day has passed, you know what hours they've worked. If you then need to go back in time, so like this one yesterday, if I need to go back and edit the hours they actually worked, let's say they left slightly earlier than planned, I could just edit that schedule from 9 till 5 to now 9 till 4 and update that. And you can see that, say, that change has now been saved onto there. So that means that if you keep that up to date every single day, it means that you can then go and you can export that information at the end of the month and it'll give you the data that you need to do your timesheets and work out exactly what you need to pay each employee.